The only way that you feel fulfilled in life is by doing difficult things. So I want you to sit here and analyze and look at all of your friends and ask yourself, why am I actually friends with them? The biggest issue that young men have right now, in my opinion, is mastering their sexual energy. Most guys don't know how to master their sexual energy. Most guys don't know how to transmute their sexual energy. On paper, $7 million a year is better. Who would not want $7 million a year over $500,000 a year? But you have to ask yourself, at what cost am I making the $7 million compared to the $500,000?
This is 60 minutes of best Iman Gadzhi business advice. There are a lot of deep thoughts here that will be useful for both beginners and experienced entrepreneurs. Enjoy!
Making $10,000 a month is the easy part. Continuing to make $10,000 a month, that's where it gets difficult, and also keeping that money and then multiplying it, growing your wealth over time. And rather than acting like some new money idiots, learn from old money. Even in my situation, even though I am new money, I knew from day one that I would make it, but I always promised myself that I would study old money to understand how to actually keep it and multiply my wealth. So the third component of making $10,000 a month is understanding that once you get there, you're not done. That is actually simply just the beginning. Now it is time to cement your place, have that as a baseline. And the crazy thing is we all have financial baselines. For me, I remember when my baseline was $1,000 a month. And this is around 6 years ago. I was still in school at this point. And that doesn't mean what you're trying to make, what you're aiming to make. It just means if you go below that point, it will keep you up. You're like, it doesn't match your identity. You're like, this isn't me. And I remember when I went from $1,000 and then went to $5,000 and then went to $10,000. And listen, since then I've been very blessed to have an amazing career, and it's gone up to $100,000 a month and now $1 million a month. And God willing, at some point it'll be a few $1 million a month, and that'll be my absolute baseline. I can't even conceive a reality where it's less than that. So the point I'm trying to make is, once you get to 10K a month, it's more than about making it an identity. It's more than about making that as your baseline. As I said, your financial identity is not where you're aiming for. It's where anything below that, and you would just feel off. You would be like, this isn't me. I'm better than this. So number one is get to 10K a month. And once you get there, make it your financial identity. And once that is solid and that's locked in, then you can keep working your way up the ranks. Then here's the real secret I'm gonna tell you. You take 50 to 70% of everything you make in that business and you invest it. That is the truest form of passive income. And this is the $10 million or even $100 million roadmap. Cash flow business that funnels into your investment portfolio. Cash flow, investment portfolio. Cash flow, investment portfolio. And just like a snowball rolling down the hill, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the velocity gets quicker and quicker and quicker. I'm sure you guys have all seen that graph of Warren Buffett's net worth just compounding year on year on year, and how towards the end, it starts to go parabolic. So ladies and gentlemen, stop wasting time. Time is ticking. There is no such thing as passive income in the way that we've been sold the lie. Go out there, start the right business, and start getting rich quicker. You see, the issue is in modern society, everyone is in such a rush to become a millionaire. And the reason they're in such a rush is because of the things that they think it will give them. And by the way, I'm specifically speaking to the teenagers and the students here. You've got kids who are 16 who are in such a rush to become a millionaire, because I know exactly what they're thinking. They're thinking, hey, once I'm a millionaire, I'm gonna get all the girls, or people are gonna be impressed, and I'm gonna be able to buy these things. And I'm gonna talk to you very frankly as someone who made their first $1 million in cash in the bank at the age of 18. I'm going to tell you this right here, right now. When you make money at an early age, and I'm not talking early like 25 or 27, 28, because that's still earlier, or maybe even 23 or 24. I'm talking early as in 18, 21. No one is impressed. They just think you are a lucky kid. I can tell you this because I experienced this. Very few people thought he was a genius. They're like, oh, he got lucky at an early age and he's probably gonna lose all of it. Because honestly, that's what happens 98% of the time. So that's number one. And number two, girls don't want you at that age. Either you have someone like your high school sweetheart who loves you no matter what. So it doesn't matter if you make your first million at 18 or at 28, this girl's in it for the long run. Or if you're trying to pick up new girls, they're more concerned with like the 28-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, the sort of girls that you think money is gonna attract. They don't want a guy who's 18 or 21. So the reason I make that clear is because everyone who's 16, 18, 20 is in such a rush. Let me make my first million, let me make my first million. And it's so stupid because they would rather make their first million in something that is pretty much just luck. Let me give you an example. They would rather make their first million at 18 or 19 or 20 by some lucky crypto pick. They put $1,000 into one shit coin and then it turned into $1 million. Let me tell you something, that will ruin your life forever. Because first of all, making a good amount of money at a young age is already a massive challenge. What's even worse is if you got lucky. And let's call it what it is. And that is luck. And by the way, I've made a crap ton of money with crypto. But I never thought that was me being a genius. I just knew, hey, there's a small part of my investment portfolio, and cool. In 2 years, I made almost $10 million from crypto, but that wasn't my career. And let me tell you something, if that was my career, I would be very depressed right now, considering everything that's going on in the crypto markets, and if I didn't get out at the right time and all of this stuff. But for me, I was always very chill about it because I planted my seeds. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I have all of these businesses. So I know that I'm going on a little bit of side tangent here, but that's all to say that the best time, truly, I can tell you, the best time in my opinion to make money is from the age of 25 to 30. Now, I happen to make money a lot younger, but also bear in mind, I started my first entrepreneurial venture when I was 14. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 5 years. It took me 5 years to make my first million. Remember what I told you earlier on? I said 5 to 10 years to make your first million. What happened to me? 5 years. Now, the first and most obvious thing that I'm gonna say is that money is important. In fact, it's very, very important. But the thing that most people forget is it's not just how much money you make. It is the speed in which you make it and also how you make that money. You see, what I mentioned with speed is very, very important. If you make money too quickly, and a lot of money in that case, it will ruin your life. It will absolutely ruin your life because you have no grounding, you have no roots to actually keep you from going off the rails. And you see this all the time. You see people who become very successful very, very quickly and they don't have that grounding. Now, bear in mind, sometimes you'll see these overnight success, but these people have been working for the past 10, 15, 20 years on their craft, and then eventually they became an overnight success. But that's okay because they have that grounding of all the work and all the time and all the effort they put in. So they know who they are. They can look themselves in the mirror and know who they are with or without the success. So please never ever dream that you can inherit the money or win the lottery, because as I said, it will ruin your life, because you will have resources and you will have money that does not match with your identity and the resilience of your character. As the saying go, with great power comes great responsibility, and you need to be willing and you need to be ready for said responsibility. So please never ever wish for extreme riches. And by the way, when I say extreme riches, I mean if you're making $0 right now and in a year you make 20,000, 30,000, maybe even 40, $50,000 a month, that's okay. I'm saying if you go from your position right now to making, millions a year, that will really, really ruin your life, especially if you don't have those roots and all of those years of working hard to really build up your character. So that way, without all of your externals, you know who you are as a person. Living in Dubai, I see a lot of examples of this, especially a lot of the crypto guys out here. And by the way, this is nothing against them whatsoever. Obviously, life has just forced a very interesting situation on them. But as I said, I have witnessed with my own 2 eyes how it ruins people. These people can never ever work hard again because they ended up making a lot of money with crypto. And bear in mind, in 2021, I made a lot of money with crypto, but at least I had, 6 years of business background and I was still making millions a year with my business. But I also knew, hey, a large part of this is luck. I didn't think I was some genius, super genius, anything like that. I knew that a large part of it was luck. So just remember, slow money is better. You will feel far more fulfilled and you will embody the traits that you want to embody far more when you make your money slowly. So now, if you want to make money and actually enjoy it, you know that the slower you make your money, the more fulfilling it will be when it comes. And by the way, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to make money as fast as you can, because for 99.9% of you, it will take far longer than you initially imagine it will to hit your financial goals. So now that we've addressed the speed in which you make your money, which most people never consider, now we also need to think about how much. Now, I can tell you honestly that I have felt my absolute richest when I was making between $10,000 to $15,000 a month. That was the quality of life where I felt the absolute most abundant. Now, bear in mind, I was 17 years old when I was making that amount of money. In modern day times, and with inflation and everything that's happened, especially over the space of the last 2 years, I would say if you can get to $20,000, $25,000 a month, you will have freedom, and that is the most important thing in life. Now, once you get to around $1 million a year or so, that is really where you can start to afford more luxuries, and you can afford more nice things in your life. But also, because you can afford more nice things, when you do have the nice things, kind of wears off. Like even just nice dinners and stuff like that, it doesn't have as much meaning because you could technically do it whenever you want. A $5,000 holiday, if you're making $1 million a year, you can go on 5 or 6 of those a year very, very comfortably. So it just doesn't have as much meaning. But I will say, getting to $1 million a year plus, you'll feel a lot more rich between that sort of $10,000 to $20,000 a month mark. But definitely getting to $1 million a year, it is a better quality of life. Now, the stage that I'm at, where I'm making most months $1 million, and that's in take-home after-tax profits, obviously living in Dubai, I can tell you that that is just excessive and unnecessary, honestly. So really, anything past $2 million a year onwards, for me, that's the situation where I want to start warning you guys. I really want to start warning you and just saying, be careful what you wish for, because it comes with a lot of extra headache that may not actually improve your quality of life. As I said, once you get past, honestly, I'd say anywhere from $1 million to $2 million a year, your actual quality of life doesn't really increase that much more, but you get a lot more headaches risks that come with it. And this rolls into the third thing that you need to analyze when you're thinking about, how much money you want to make. Let's say you're thinking, okay, what's the difference between making $500,000 a year and $7 million a year? It's like, of course, on paper, $7 million a year is better. Who would not want $7 million a year over $500,000 a year? But you have to ask yourself, at what cost am I making the $7 million compared to the $500,000? Listen, it is incredibly important to learn. Learn as much as you can, but it's far more important to apply that information. I want you to view my videos as an interesting viewpoint, an interesting perspective from someone who has walked the path very publicly. I've been documenting everything for 8 years now on YouTube that has walked the path that you want to walk. But none of it will have any effect whatsoever unless you apply it. Now, the thing is, YouTube is a very smart platform, and it can be a very dangerous platform because sure, you have interesting educational, but remember, view my content as entertaining. And by the way, I want you to view most books out there in the exact same way, because most books, what it is, it's 15 pages of gold and then 300 pages of fluff, because they can't sell you a 15-page book and people will pay $12 for that, even though it's really only 15 pages that are valuable. Really, the only thing that I would consider proper learning is when you know exactly what you need to do and you're educating yourself on how to do it. Let's say there's an aspect of your online business or your online career that you need to work on in order to get ahead. Well, then immersing yourself in that specific topic, that's education. Just watching a podcast or reading a book because you think that it might be useful to you, that is very dangerous, and you need to look at that as entertainment and not education. Well, here's the thing, you get paid in accordance to the size of the problems that you solve. And in order to solve big problems or do things that are exceptionally great, you need to sacrifice a lot of the mental space that you have in your head. So you need to understand the person that makes $10 million a year plus, in fact, even 3-4 million a year plus, they're sacrificing a lot of mental peace that they can have in their head. They have a lot of chaos in their life because it is only through chaos that you can achieve extraordinary outcomes. So for most people, when they think that they want the life of a multi-millionaire, in fact, what they want is they want a life of financial freedom, but not only that, a life of financial freedom where they can actually enjoy it with peace and being present and actually enjoying the fruits of their labor. What you want, and I'm telling you from experience, trust me when I tell you that what you want is not to be a multi-millionaire and spend all this money on nice cars and nice clothes and expensive holidays and all that, because look, I'm telling you, it just gets so boring so quickly. You become so acclimated to, honestly, the pleasure that you get from it is zero. And as I said, the worst part is when you're trying to make multi-millions, there will never be a moment, and I can tell you this from experience, there will never be a moment you can sit on the beach in pure peace because you know that you have 25 employees, or in my case, between all my companies, we're almost at 80 employees right now. And as I said, I can tell you it is very difficult to sit on the beach in pure peace and bliss when you've got this much responsibility. You should really focus on having a lifestyle business where you can produce anywhere from 100K to $1 million a year. And those are the sort of ranges that I've been able to find where you can actually put the right people in place, where I can sort of run, not on autopilot, because passive income is a lie. There's no such thing where your team will just work for you for the next 20 years and you're gonna have no headaches or anything like that. But the point is where you can really put in a system in place and you're still involved, maybe a couple hours a day online available, you're still making decisions, key hires, stuff like that, but without aggressively scaling. Even me, I'm in a position right now, we hired 17 people in the last 30 days. I'm starting to bring on people in my company that I never thought I would need, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm bringing on an HR person because of just the sheer amount of employees that I have. I'm bringing on a full-time in-house accountant. Now we have multiple accountants for the different businesses, but I'm talking like a full-time person that every single day gives me cash flow reports and stuff like that. I'm now getting to a stage where I actually need that. Things are getting very hectic. So you might be wondering, Iman, okay, well then in that case, why don't you scale your business back? Especially because, a lot of you guys know that I've got over an 8-figure investment portfolio. So I could just scale my businesses back to, let's say, $2 million a year, have my investment portfolio, and I'm basically good to go for the rest of my life. Here is why. The only way that you feel fulfilled in life is by doing difficult things. And I get a lot of fulfillment by building. So right now, at the current stage of my life, I am optimizing for fulfillment. So what is very important is you understand, what are you optimizing for in your life? Because I can tell you right now, by the way, in 6 years, I do not intend on working as hard as I do now. If that sounds crazy to you, sure, so be it.
By the way, hit the like button and follow my YouTube channel. There are more videos like this to come.
Look, as I mentioned in my last video, there's no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme. There's only a get-rich-quicker scheme.
Making money will never be easier, but it can be a lot less hard than you think it is. If you play your cards right, it doesn't matter if you're starting from $0 today. I genuinely believe in the next 36 months, you could have between $1 to $5 million to your name in your investment portfolio. And the way that you do that is by realizing you need money for assets. Build a practical cash flow business quick, one that's remote, one that's lean, and one that provides you free cash flow so that way you can invest in assets when they're at rock bottom. Having a job is not a plan. And in the same way, starting a business that is not practical is also not a plan. This is coming from experience. I spent obscene amounts of money in a couple years building my software company, Agency Flow. If you want to start a business, I would not recommend starting a SaaS company or starting a business that's impractical. Building a new startup or this or that. You need to be practical right now. Remember, you need cash to buy assets. Okay, so you need a business that gives you free cash flow. Now, before we get on to the next point, the other thing that I want to say right now is saving is not a plan. Another thing to mention before my next point, our parents always used to say, save money. You need to understand the value of a dollar. You need to respect money. That is unequivocally not true in this era. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've looked around, but your own government doesn't understand the value of money. And your government is so keen and so willing to devalue its own currency, it doesn't care anymore. Look, ever since we went off the gold standard, money's just loosey-goosey, it's anywhere. Which to me is also another reason why there is so much money being printed. There is so much money out there. And you're still broke? You still don't have any cash on hand to buy assets at fire sale prices in the next 12 to 18 months? What are you doing? Stop messing around. Get your head in the game. Get your head in the game. So the second and probably most important productivity hack is that I want you to plan the day the night before. Now, I know it sounds too simple to be true, but that's why most people don't do it. There's something very special that goes on overnight when you have set your intention, when you go into the day with true intention. When you set your intention the night before, something very special happens while you're sleeping. I've definitely noticed that. Now, it can be as simple as 3 tasks, 3 main things for the day. Now, back in the day from 2016 to around 2019, 2020, when I was really driving the business forward, I didn't have the leadership that I have in my different companies and the business partners and the CEOs that I have in my different companies. I used to plan my day hour by hour. So literally hour by hour, what am I doing? These days, of course, I've got my calendar, I've got my assistant, and things are penciled in. But apart from that, I like to free flow. For me, the most important thing is looking at my calendar, knowing what I have the next day put in place, whether that be important business calls, important meetings, certain duties that I need to tend to. And for me, it's as simple as writing down 3 to 5 things I need to accomplish that day. It's that simple, but I promise you it works. So try it tonight. Tonight, just very simply write 3 to 5 things down tonight before tomorrow starts, and you'll see your brain starts working overnight and you go into tomorrow with real intention. Especially for, the biggest issue that young men have right now, in my opinion, is mastering their sexual energy. Most guys don't know how to master their sexual energy. Most guys don't know how to transmute their sexual energy. And I think if you look, and a lot of authors have written about this, why people usually get more career success in their late 30s, even early 30s, or especially in their 40s and 50s, is because they have less sexual energy, or that sexual energy isn't really, channeled in the form of, I don't know how I say this, but I guess in a physical way. Usually their energy and their focus, as I said, really goes away from...
I once went 28 years without having sex.
I don't know. You get my drift. And really that's when, especially men, have a chance to really focus on their careers. Because, as I said, most men out there just don't know what to do with their sexual energy. And that's very plain to see when porn is such a massive industry. Guys, you're literally throwing away the most valuable thing that you have, which is your life energy. Now, for girls, it's slightly different, but that's a longer discussion. This is the lie that you see perpetuated online about making money. In fact, I think it may be one of the worst lies to come out of the 21st century. Let me break something to you. There is no such thing as true passive income from your business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to a concept called entropy. Now, entropy states that everything eventually evolves into a lack of order or predictability. Basically, a gradual decline into disorder. And this applies perfectly to business or making money. Everyone has this idea of passive income as you build an online business once and then you're set free for the rest of your life. Well, here's the honest truth. That is a lot of people's reality for a few weeks, a few months, maybe even a year. People do actually live that passive income lifestyle. They build a system and then it provides for them. But here's where the bad news comes in. Remember that thing I just told you about? That whole entropy thing? Well, eventually it catches up to you. Ladies and gentlemen, just like in life, whatever plants you don't water, well, they eventually die. And just like the goose that laid the golden eggs, if you stop feeding that goose, eventually you'll stop getting the golden eggs. Business is a living, breathing organism. And let me kind of take it back down to earth and give you a very tangible example. Let's say you have this idea of, hey, I don't want to ever run out of toilet paper. I want to be so abundant with toilet paper. So what you do is you stock up on as much toilet paper as you can find. You have 9 months worth of toilet paper. And for 9 months, you go about your life and you're like, I never have to worry about toilet paper ever again. Life is great. You are abundant with toilet paper. And eventually you realize, wow, I've never bothered to restock my toilet paper. I'm out. And you come to that sobering realization while you quite literally have your pants down. Well, in a metaphorical sense, that's kind of what passive income is like. Eventually you will come to that place where you reach the same conclusion, except you're caught with your pants down and you're like, I don't get it. The money dried up. This was meant to be fully passive. And that's a cold, hard truth of it. Just like anything in life, you can give yourself a very good run rate and you can do so much preparation so that way you don't have to worry about something for a very, very long time. By the end of the day, if it's something important or meaningful in life, at some point you have to give it attention. Now listen, times have changed and the world is extremely different to what it was like 100 years ago. That said, some business principles are timeless. Now 100 years ago, if you wanted to get rich quickly, and by the way, when I say quick, most people think quick means 2 months or 5 months. I'm talking quick in the normal world is, hey, I made the intention that I am gonna go from nothing to something, go from having average income to becoming a millionaire. Quick is 5 to 10 years. It's not 5 to 10 months. Normally 100 years ago, even right now, if you want to become a millionaire, from the point in which you get your degree, it'll take you 20, 30 years. So trust me, when I say 5 to 10 years, that is a good timeline. Now, I say 5 to 10, but it'll probably be a lot quicker for you. The second route is you work inside of a fast-growing company, a company where you can learn a lot. And you work in that company for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And then you take everything that you've learned and you go and you start your own business in a similar industry. And from there, you add in hard work and you absolutely take off. And you may even bring in 1% the amount of business that the company you used to work for, but that's fine because you have 100% ownership. Now, as I said, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, this would have been the path. The path would have always started with you working at a company or at an organization and understanding that in your early years, you need to prioritize learning over earning. Earning can come a little later, but in your early years, I'm talking specifically here as a student, as a teenager, someone in your early 20s, learning should always be the priority. So obviously to build a brighter future, the best thing you can have by your side is an incredible woman. But at the end of the day, most men don't choose the right woman to have by their side. Most men that want to accomplish something big in life don't have a partner that understands their grand ambition and understands that they need a safe space at home. If they're going out and they're conquering and they're doing all of this for their future family, for their wife, at home, it needs to be a safe space. It needs to be a safe, loving, nurturing, caring environment. Or at least that's what applies to extremely ambitious men, which if you're watching this, I assume is a category of men that you fall into. So either men choose women that are too turbulent, or, and I see this a lot as well, men choose women simply based on their looks. And at the end of the day, looks fade. Looks fade, and so does attraction. And I'm talking about some of the most beautiful women on earth. I'm talking your 10 out of 10s. I'm gonna be very honest with you. For every, beautiful girl, 10 out of 10 you see, there is a man at home who's been with that person for years, and no matter how beautiful she is, he's bored of her attraction. He's bored of her looks. And that's just kind of what we're like as men. But so many guys are so stupid and they think, oh, just because she's pretty, okay, cool, she'll be the woman by my side. It's very foolish, because if you have grand ambitions in life, it's gonna get turbulent and you need a good person by your side. And that's really what I've noticed with the most successful men, and for me, the most respectable men that I've ever seen is, listen, if they wanted to, they had their turbulence in the past. Like they enjoyed themselves, they had their experiences, they did whatever they wanted to do. And some men that I meet that I really respect and are multi-billionaires, they've only had one partner their entire life, and that's beautiful as well. But whether you go down the path of high school sweethearts or whether you have your Playboy era, the destination needs to be the same, which is an incredible woman by your side, and a woman that you choose not based purely on looks or, oh, if I go to a dinner party and I got a beautiful woman by my side, I'll have more respect. Because listen, I can tell you high level men, they don't respect that. I think when I see a guy and he has a beautiful woman by his side and I know that it's just a little bit of fun for him, sure, that's great. But when that's his queen, like that's the woman by his side and she's pretty and that's it, but she has no social intelligence, or they're at a dinner table and, you know, she's on her phone, or she just doesn't really know how to represent her and her man. What respect is there in that? So just understand, for the men watching this, and as you guys know, I speak specifically to men, but still shout out to the 10% or 12% of women that watch this. As a man, the most important decision you will make in your life is the woman that you have by your side. So if you want to win at this game, here are the steps. And they're actually kind of jumbled up from the order in which I gave you the 3 things I learned. First things first, find a cash flow business. Once you're done with that, sacrifice. Right? And just know that you're gonna have to roll up your sleeves and you're gonna sacrifice. And if you're not willing to do that, I don't know what to tell you. And then thirdly, start getting invested as soon as possible and write down that number, right? You know, that real true financial freedom number for you. You have to decide how much of your income, no matter how small it is, are you gonna put away in order to invest? It really all starts with a decision, whether you're getting $50 a week pocket money, whether you have a little, you're 17 or 18 and you have a little side gig, maybe you have a part-time job, whatever it is, decide how much of your income you're gonna put away. Now you might be making $50 a week right now because your parents are giving you $50 a week in pocket money. And you might go, if I put $10 away every single week, that's really not going to move the needle that much. You're right. But what happens when you get to a point when you're making $5,000 a week? And that could very much happen for you in your teenage years, maybe even your early 20s, whatever the case may be. And you, for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, have built up the habit of putting, for example, 20% of your income away. So maybe when you're 14 or 15, you're used to putting $10 away per week to invest. And let's say you land a high paying job, or maybe you start your own business. And as I said, you're making $5,000 a week and you are used to putting 20% of that income aside. That's $1,000 a week. That's a lot of money to be investing. So as I said, the first step here is decide how much money are you going to put away and invest. And think about it, not so much in terms of the amount of money, but in terms of percentage term of everything that you receive, how much are you going to invest? For me personally, I live off of anywhere from 10 to 15% of what I earn. If you guys have seen my breakdown of 2021, sort of like a year in review video, as all you guys may know, I made over $10 million in 2021. So I know some of the things I do might seem like, wow, that's so much money, but it's all, I don't know what word I'm looking for here. Proportionate? I think so. I would be very concerned for myself if I spent 70, 80, 90% of my income. And a lot of people out there spend more than they even earn. I don't believe in living below your means in the sense that, I see a lot of these multi-millionaire people, and they're just like live very frugally and they won't buy coffee and this. I personally just think that's stupid, right? Like this life, you only have one of this life. If you are being responsible and you're only spending 10, 15, 20, even 30% of your income, and you make a lot of money, who cares? If you're investing the rest of the money, you're protecting your future. You know that even if you stop making money for the rest of your life, you would still be good. And now I'll get on to a point that I'm going to touch on very soon. For me personally, I know everyone has different opinions. This life is there to enjoy. Live below your means as a percentage, okay? Let's say in a hypothetical world, totally hypothetical, someone might look at someone who is just enjoys their life to the fullest, like literally doesn't even look at the price tag of anything, and they spend $10 million a year. That might seem insane to someone. That might seem like total lunacy. But let's just say that person made $100 million a year, and that person invested $80 million a year, spent $10 million a year, and put $10 million a year into their savings, okay? So they saved just as much as they spent, and the other 80% of everything they made went to investments. And let's say that investment portfolio yielded them 10% returns a year. From that $80 million, they have just yielded $8 million a year passively from their investment portfolio. So the reason I say this is because someone might look at that person and be like,
oh, you're not living below your means, or blah, blah, or you're financially irresponsible.
I don't think so. As I said, for me, it's all proportionate and it's all based on how much you make and what stage of things you're at. So living below your means doesn't mean, only shopping when there's sales if you're a person who makes a lot of money. Okay, so just bear that in mind. It's funny. I've started to look at the self-help industry and realize just how much bad it's doing for the world. Like just how astray it's leading people. Trying to tell people, hey, focus on your passion. Let me tell you something. What you're passionate about today, you won't be passionate about in a month. And sometimes your biggest passions in life, when money is involved in it, it doesn't stay a passion anymore. So what you're passionate about today is not what you're going to be passionate about in 30 years. But what you commit to today, you will still be a master at in 30 years. And let me tell you something, when you are very good at something and you know that, you always enjoy it. You may not be over the moon, passionate, elated about it all the time, but you always enjoy it and respect it. And you always want to continue doing it because you understand how much blood, sweat, and tears went into it. So in life, don't focus on your passions. Find something you're interested in, dedicate yourself to it, focus on being a master at it. Now, once you're a master at it, or once you're very good at it, then you can add some other skills on top of it. And that's really where you sort of stack your abilities and stack the portfolio of things that you're very good at. But the main thing is just please stop it with the passion bullshit. The things that you are passionate about should be your hobbies. That's your downtime, that's your off time, because those things can always change. But when it comes to your work, when it comes to your career, focus on something where you hate it for a long time. But it doesn't matter, you stay dedicated to it. This is where I have so much respect for the Japanese culture because I see it time and time again. In Japan, teenagers will come on as apprentices and learn how to make knives, and they will do that for the next 60 years of their life. And I can tell you for a large portion of it, they probably hate it or they find it boring. But it doesn't matter, they find something and they stick to it. They have honor for the craft. And I think that's really what's missing in modern society is everything just needs to feel good and feel positive. No, focus on mastery, not passion. So the first habit that actually made me a millionaire was turning my phone on airplane mode. Pretty much the first 3 years of my business was built pretty much entirely while my phone was on airplane mode. And I'll explain why. You see, most people think that the reason they are not a millionaire is because of lack of energy, like they don't have enough energy or motivation to do something, or a lack of knowledge, understanding, and they think these are usually the two main reasons why. That is actually incorrect in 90% of cases. In 90% of cases, the thing that they lack is focus, because if you have focus, then you will do the work, and doing the work and getting into that state of flow actually gives you that energy and motivation. And when you are someone who can sit down and focus on a task for a prolonged period of time, you will inevitably get the knowledge and information that you need in order to make $1 million. So this is why putting your phone on airplane mode is so important, because ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where there's constant notification, constant distractions. So, most people, the phone isn't enough. Most people have, an Apple Watch with notifications going on 24/7 and their computer is binging here and binging there. You need to reclaim your focus. You should not let anyone rob you of the most important thing that you have, which is your focus and your attention. The next habit that made me a millionaire by the age of 18 was choosing the right vehicle. It absolutely breaks my heart to see people who work so incredibly hard, are so dedicated, but yet no matter how hard they work, by the age of 30, they will never even see $1 million. I mean, really, these are people who sacrifice all of their 20s. And the reason that is because they have not chosen the right vehicle. Now, the right vehicle is one of two things. It's something where either you're paid very well for your time, or it's something that you can actually use leverage. Now, when I say leverage, I mean you can outsource to people, you can hire people, you can build a product and it can sell without you actually being the person to deliver. Now, the business that I started when I was 16 years old, a lot of you guys probably already know my story and the business that I've been running for 5.5 years now. The business that I started actually was a tick for both of those. It was something where I was paid very, very well. When I started my business, which is an online boutique marketing agency, at first it was actually a creative agency, the first year and a half, and I was paid good retainers by clients in order to shoot content for them and then actually distribute and grow their social platforms. And that was great, but really after the first 9 months of doing it, I was kind of capped out at around $10,000 to $15,000 a month. So that's when I started to use leverage. I started to hire contractors and I actually repositioned my offer to run ads for online businesses. And that was really when I started hitting the $100,000 months plus in my business. Now, I know that a lot of you guys may take this the wrong way and you may think, oh, that's terrible to think that, you're better than other people. Now, bear in mind, you're not disrespectful towards other people, but in certain domains, you're better than other people. You think Michael Jordan doesn't look at everyone around him and goes, yeah, I'm better than you guys? Do you think that industry leaders and shakers don't look at themselves and go, yeah, you know what? I've got something special to me. Now, when it gets dangerous, and I'm sure we all know these people, are the ones that think that they are special, but they won't put in the work. The reason you can think you are better than other people is because you have simply put in more hours, more time, and more work. So listen, you should absolutely believe you are special. You should absolutely believe that almost to an extent, you're better than most other people who are so brain dead, so asleep, are so scared to run towards the things they want in life. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with having these feelings as long as you back it up. Because if you don't back it up, then it is simply delusional. And I will be honest with you, there are lots of people, as I said, I'm sure you know lots of people that are extremely delusional. They're like, I'm gonna be a billionaire. Cool. Do you have a plan? Do you have any sort of roadmap? In fact, let's put that to the side. Have you even made $10,000 in your life? Have you made $100,000 in your life? So let's not talk about billionaire status yet. So as I said, you never ever want to be delusional in life. We should always have that feeling of being special, of being meant for more in life. You know, I can tell you for a fact, growing up from the age of even 6 or 7, I just had that feeling that I was destined for more, that something great was going to come out of my life. And that was even from a young age. And I remember even, you know, in school at the age of 13 or 14 years old, feeling a sense of like, yeah, I was better than my peers. Even though at that time, I hate to use the word bullying, but I was being picked on heavily. I was a complete outcast, a complete outsider. Within the realm of school, I failed in every single arena you could think of. And yet I still had that feeling of like, no, I'm working towards something bigger. I was trying little side hustles and little businesses and this and that. So in life, humility is extremely important. And you should be able to assess your life situation and look at your life situation and not be like, as I said, these idiots that are like, oh, I'm gonna be a billionaire, and they just sit on their ass all day and don't do anything about it. You should feel special. And then you should put in a special amount of work, a special amount of dedication to prove it to the world. And that's exactly what I did. Step number 7 is you want to increase your percentage of your income that you invest, okay? So once you start getting to a point where you're making more and more income, every year you should try to have your, the percentage of your income that is going towards your investment grow and grow and grow. And this, the reason that this is important is because of the last final step. And the last final step is really where you achieve the truest freedom in life, is only live off of what your investment portfolio yields you. So let's say that you have an investment portfolio. Let's say you're 25 years old and you followed all these steps. And let's say you follow these steps and you're 14, let's say you're 17, maybe even you're 19 years old, and you follow these steps and you have an investment portfolio of $2 million. And if that sounds crazy, like, trust me, like, don't box yourself in like that. Like, don't limit yourself and your scope of thinking. So as I said, let's say you get to $2 million a year. Off that, let's say that you are yielding 8% a year. That is $160,000 a year passively. The truest freedom is when your investment portfolio, as in like your true passive income, that pays for your life. And if you can get to that point, and that's kind of a cool stage where I'm at in life right now, where my lifestyle can be entirely paid for by my investment portfolio, which means that all of the money that I earn in my businesses can go straight into my investment portfolio. So let's say, to give you sort of realistic benchmarks, this year the businesses will hit, I think combined, anywhere from, let's say, $3.5 million to $5 million profit, right? So if I can contribute, let's say hypothetically, an extra $4 million, and let's say I'm yielding 10% from that, I put another $4 million into my investment portfolio this year, and that means that I get back an extra $400,000 a year in yield. I've just gone ahead and from this year, 2022, from my business earnings, I've gone ahead and allowed myself to spend an extra $400,000 a year for the rest of my life. And if I go ahead and do that again next year, then that stacks and that compounds and compounds. The average person has a worse attention span than a goldfish, and that's who you're competing against. So on the good news, that means that just with the tiniest bit of discipline and work ethic, you are already ahead of 90% of people. And before we even begin, you need to understand that your ability to control your urges is directly correlated to your success or lack thereof. If you cannot control yourself, if you cannot be disciplined, you will never be successful. It is simply impossible. And that is why it's so important for you to master your urges. I've told people many times when they ask me, I go, listen, I am built for this life because I have an insane stress tolerance, but my life is not the same life that other people should live. But the reason you clicked on this video is because you want to learn how to become a millionaire. And as I said, if you want to get to that position, you need to increase your ability to handle stress. Now, bear in mind, one thing I will say, it's not something that needs to happen overnight. It's something that progresses. I can handle a certain level of stress in 2023 that I simply couldn't handle in 2018 or 2019. In fact, some of my biggest businesses with the most amount of employees, the reason that I didn't pursue or start those businesses or move forward with those businesses in 2018 or 2019, even though I was given the opportunity to, people wanted to start the businesses with me, give me equity, blah, blah, all this, is because I simply knew that back then, I did not have the stress tolerance to be able to deal with it. So it's not an overnight thing. It's something that you build over time. But as I said, don't come to the first roadblock and think, oh, it's tough. It's not meant to be tough. It's all meant to be roses and fairy tales. I'm just trying to give you very clear expectations. I think when someone can talk to you very openly and honestly and say that, listen, it's not all perfect, I feel like at least you're a little bit more prepared to go into war. So definitely I can say this about myself, and definitely I can say this about some of the most successful people I know in any realm in life, by the way. Any realm, whether that's sports, whether that's business, whether that's even a high income career, working for a very lucrative company. You need to be able to handle a high level of stress and embrace it. Everyone deserves an opinion, not everyone deserves a say. And here's what I mean by that. There are certain things in life that I simply do not know. I've not done the research, I don't have any life experience. And one of my favorite things, when someone asks me my opinion on something that I'm just not very well educated on, I haven't really given much thought or time or attention to it, I just love being able to say, I'll be honest, I don't really have an opinion on that. Or I just say, I can't really make an informed judgment on that. So what I mean by this is I believe everyone deserves an opinion. Everyone can have an opinion, but not everyone deserves a say. And you need to understand that this applies to your parents, to your friends, to maybe sometimes even in your business. I will always take the opinion of everyone in my business, but some people, they deserve an opinion, but they don't deserve a say. And I don't mean that to belittle anyone, because there's areas of my life where I should definitely be allowed an opinion, but maybe I don't really deserve a say because I don't have enough experience in that to really bring anything meaningful to the table. So just remember this next time you're letting other people's judgments cloud that inner direction that you know you have, because a lot of people around you will give you their opinion, your friends, your family, all this, and let them have their opinions. But they shouldn't have a say in how your life goes, because who are they to tell you? Unless it's someone who's extremely successful at what you've done, then yeah, they should probably have a bit of a say in what's going on. So from day one, always distinguish what is an opinion and what is good advice. Those two things are very different. So going back to my main point, the trajectory, whether it's now or 100 years ago, I believe that if you are young, and when I say young, I mean really below the age of 23, the trajectory has always been very clear. First, you are an apprentice, you are a sponge, you're learning as much as you can, you're absorbing everything, and then you can become the master. Now, let me tell you something. These days, we rarely have apprenticeships. We have internships. And there's a big difference. When you're an intern in a big company, I've even had friends of mine, especially when I was younger, friends of mine that were my age, obviously, for me, by the age of 21, I was making millions and millions of dollars a year. But my friends that I grew up with were looking at internships, and they were telling me, oh, what internship do you recommend, and this and that. And I had to tell them very honestly, I said, listen, if you go to a company that's more than 200 employees, you're gonna be lost. No one's gonna train you. You're not gonna really learn anything. But if you look back 200 years ago, let's say you were even a locksmith, you would be an apprentice, you would be young, and you would be studying the craft. And even in places like Japan, this stuff still goes on. You're young and you work for a company that's not massive, not too big where you get lost, and you learn things and you get to see the back end, and you get to see how a master of their craft does something, and you get to take all of this in as a sponge. I mean, it's the best thing you could do for yourself at the age of 17, 18, 20, 21. So just understand the difference between an apprenticeship and an internship. Really, the difference is this one, you're gonna get time, attention, and you're gonna get to really learn the craft. This one, you're just thrown in with the dogs and you have to fend for yourself. No one is really gonna take the time and care and attention to show you the ropes. So I really think that if you're 21 or younger, when you're making the decision, hey, what's my next career move? What's my next step? Forget about how much you will earn from it. I want you instead to evaluate how much are you going to learn from it. I want you to look at the thing that you're gonna learn and go, hey, if I work at this company for 1 or 2 years, what skills will I learn that will make me so much money it's not even funny at the age of 35? Because listen, if you can spend even 2 to 3 years working at the right company and working your way up through the ranks, you should then take that experience and use that to launchpad your own business when the time is right. And listen, it's nothing personal with your old company. You should never breach confidentiality agreements. You should never be disrespectful to your old company. You should never step on toes. If that company made you who you are, but you take that knowledge, you do something different, you offer something different to the market, you offer a different service, a different product, or maybe you even take that information and partner up with someone and go into a totally different industry. But the point is, you take those skills that you have learned and you understand and you realize that this is the most valuable asset that you have, and you use that to launchpad the next phase of your career. I don't think that people, especially young people, truly understand how important it is to get insider knowledge. Work like your new money, but act like your old money and have the values of old money. So just remember, you want to have that hunger of new money. You know, old money, they don't have that same sort of hunger, but what old money has is wisdom. So if you can match up that hunger, that drive that pushes you forward, but then have the wisdom and always learn from old money, then that will be your secret to not only making a lot of money, but making sure that you don't lose it once you get it. The first principle you need to learn if you want to be a millionaire in your teens or your early 20s is that in order to be a king, you must first be a pawn. And this is really the issue with this generation. And I say this generation even though I am included in it, but I grew up with very traditional principles around respect. I come from a background that is a mix between Eastern European and Middle Eastern. So like growing up, you have no option. You learn respect and you learn the pecking order. And I learned from a young age that you respect your elders. And that's why still to this day, I still sit across the table from people that, I'm gonna be very honest with you, are far less successful than I am, but I shut the fuck up and I listen. Because for me, in my culture, you listen to your elders. Now that doesn't mean you need to take everything that they say on board, but you at least listen. And because I grew up in this environment of learning respect, I learned that, hey, you can be a king one day, but in order to be a king, you first need to be a pawn. You first need to be able to earn your stripes. And by the way, I earned my stripes from a very young age. I started my first entrepreneurial ventures when I was 14. And I learned what it was like to work with clients and, quite frankly, for lack of a better word, be their little bitch boy. I learned what it was like to pay my dues no matter what. It's kind of like, listen, when you're young and you join a football team, you're going to be the one who's the ball boy. At the end of training, you're going to be the one who is expected to carry all of the equipment to and from. And you need to go through that to one day become the captain. You don't just come in, especially as someone who is young, and become the captain all of a sudden. And that is the issue with today's social media bullshit society. They look at things and they look at people and they go, okay, I'm going to jump from here to here. And I deserve that for some reason. And I even get this to this day. People say, hey, Iman, why do you recommend business models that you used to do? Why don't you recommend what you're doing right now? Do you realize how stupid that sounds? Do you realize why I may suggest business models I did when I first started my entrepreneurial ventures, or within 3 years into my entrepreneurial ventures, not now that I am coming up to my 10th year as an entrepreneur? Do you not realize why I would suggest businesses that I started as a pawn, as someone with no resources, no connection, no money, nothing? Do you realize why I suggest those businesses rather than the businesses I have now with millions of followers, subscribers, tens of millions of dollars? Like, I'm sure you can kind of see why I think this is better than this. But this is what I'm saying. The younger generation, they look at things and they're like, no, I want to jump straight to the finish line. You have to earn your fucking stripes. So just remember, to be a king, you must first learn to be a pawn. And there is nothing wrong with that, by the way. There is honor, there is nobility in starting from the bottom of the pecking order, being quiet, respecting the process, and understanding that you will eventually work your way up the totem pole. So the first way to unfuck your life is never disrespect momentum. You see, for a lot of you, your biggest issue is you get a win. You win today, you set a list of things to do and you do it. You take the actions necessary to grow your business. You take the right steps in the right direction, and then all of a sudden, you kick your feet up. You get comfortable. You stop doing the things that got you to even where you are right now. Listen, you may not be a multi-millionaire. You may not be in the place you want to be in life, but even if you just have a week or a couple weeks of success, of wins, all of a sudden then you just think that, oh, you know, I can go back to my old ways and I don't actually need to keep up the things that got me here in the first place. Momentum, in my opinion, is genuinely the most powerful force you can have in your life. I always say, when it rains, it pours. And by the way, that also applies negatively. Negative momentum is a thing. The pendulum can swing either way. So when you are on a hot streak, when you have momentum in life, never ever disrespect it. Because as I said, when it rains, it pours. When one blessing comes into your life, usually there's a few more around the corner. And it genuinely makes me sad to see all these people who start their business, get a little win, and just don't know where to go from there, don't know how to keep up the momentum. And if you're looking to make $10,000 a month online, that is by far the most important thing, which is don't disrespect momentum. So that is the first way. Now, the next principle for teenagers to become millionaires is dress to elevate. And here's what I mean by that. When you are young, people are going to automatically discredit you. You don't want to make it worse by the way that you dress. So here's the thing. You can have a 30-year-old that dresses in big labels, Gucci, Balenciaga, wears the funny shoes and all that stuff. And listen, I mean, I'm not against it. Sometimes when I'm feeling comfortable, I dress in streetwear. But if I'm going to an important meeting, I can guarantee you I'm not dressed like that. And my point is that you can get a 30-year-old that dresses like that looks like a 20-year-old, whereas you can get a 18 or 20-year-old that dresses very traditional, very classic, and you can get an 18 or 20-year-old that looks like they're 30. So the point is, don't spend crazy amounts of money to have all these labels and this and that, and I don't think that's a good idea ever, unless you really can afford it, you have a full wardrobe, and sometimes you just want to be a little playful. My best recommendation is just go for clothes that have no branding, no label, and I'm not saying that you need to dress in 3-piece suits. Listen, even if you just go in a simple black t-shirt, simple trousers that aren't too baggy, and definitely no skinny jeans, and just some classic timeless shape shoes. Listen, you're not dressing incredibly well, but the point is you can kind of hold your own in any room. Sometimes less really is more. So first learn how to just dress classic and timeless, and then later down the line you can start incorporating some suits. You can start incorporating some double-breasted suits. Maybe before you go to the suits, just get some nice blazers, and you can pair the blazers with trousers. It doesn't need to be a full suit. You know, a lot of times I'm just very comfortable with a nice round neck t-shirt, not like this. This is a lot more, you know, it's a Sunday today, very home comfortable shirt. So not something as casual as this, just a nice fitted white t-shirt or black t-shirt and smart blazer over the top, some trousers and some smart shoes. And you have a very classic timeless look that's not overly formal, and you're never going to be too overdressed in any situation. And then, as I said, later down the line, you can get into your double-breasted, you can get into your 3 pieces, whatever you feel comfortable in really. But the point is that you really need to learn how to dress to elevate, especially if you're going into the world of business at a young age, because I'm being honest with you, I experienced this firsthand. People will try to discredit you because of your age. So don't give them any excuse or reason to make it an even bigger thing than it needs to be. So dress older than you are.
Now, moving into the second way to unfuck your life, and that is to cut out the bad habit friends. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of times I notice that people have friends that, like, you're not really friends. You're just friends because you have a friendship or a bond over a bad habit. Here's what I mean. Stoners have their stoner friends, like the people they smoke weed with. But like outside of that, if they were sober, probably if they stopped smoking weed in 7 years, they wouldn't still be friends. You've got your gamer friends, but outside of gaming, you don't really have that much to talk about or like that much of an interest in each other. Or you've got your partying friends, or you even have your gossip friends. You've got those friends where it just seems like all you do when you're around them is just gossip. Have a lunch, have a coffee, and gossip about people. These are friends that perpetuate and keep you doing these bad habits. If you cut out these friends, then you cut out the habits, because a lot of times these friends and the feeling that you need to keep being friends with them, or this idea that you're a bad person because all of a sudden you've changed, you have a new identity, you formed a new identity, and your identity, quite frankly, doesn't align with these people anymore. So it's fine. You don't need to be mean. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to be emotional. You don't need to shout at them and tell them they're a horrible person and cut them off aggressively, but you just slowly distance yourself. There is nothing wrong with that. So I want you to sit here and analyze and look at all of your friends and ask yourself, why am I actually friends with them? If I was in a room with them for 30 days, would I still have a good time? Would I enjoy myself? Would we get along? And if the answer is no, then probably there's something outside of your genuine friendship that is keeping you there.
There's a lot of people who are young with a lot of ambition in their life, but the issue is there's nothing in their life that has humbled them. Things that will humble you: combat sports. Business will humble you, because no matter how good you are, when you get in the world of business, the market will tell you how good you are. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember when I was 17 years old, I had gotten up to, I think, 15 or 20 grand in my business at that point. I dropped out of school the month prior, and I hired my first employee, full-time employee, at $50,000 a year, which, by the way, for a first employee was like, at 17, that was big for me. And I'll never forget it. This person even moved country to join my company, aka just me. And within 3 to 4 days, he quit, packed up his stuff, and went back to his country and was like, I do not enjoy this work. And I remember it was one of the very few times I've ever cried in my life. I remember talking to my mom and just crying and just being like, wow, I feel like a failure. Your business is taking off and you're hiring your first employee, and they leave because A, the work isn't enjoyable enough, or potentially, and this is something I had to face at the time, maybe I just really wasn't an inspiring leader. Maybe I wasn't the sort of leader where my team was like, I would follow you into war. And things are very different now that I have 150 employees. We get 40,000 people a year applying to work at one of my companies, because I was humbled when I was 17 that, hey, maybe you're not as good as you think you are. Maybe you think that you're this little child prodigy. Are you sure about that? Let me humble you. So whether it's business, whether it's combat sports, you need something external in your life to humble you and put you in your place. Because the thing is, especially if you earn a lot of success at a young age, you're gonna start to think you're hot shit. And if you don't have anything to humble you, you will end up becoming your worst enemy. This third success secret of the top 1% is once they make money, and especially when they make money in a bulk amount, because a lot of people, maybe they sell their company, maybe they have, a massive month in their business, maybe they sign a big contract. Once they get a big sum of money in, they go and buy assets. And the reason that is especially in your first, I would say really even your first 10 to 20 years in business or in your career, you are a massive liability to yourself. If you make a lot of money, there's a high chance, a high probability that you will spend it, or maybe you have a rough period in your life, or maybe you just have a quarter life or a midlife crisis. I mean, these things happen. So instead of having all this cash, instead, when you get a big lump sum of cash in, go buy assets. Go buy assets and go buy good quality things that are a little difficult to sell. Because here's the thing, go invest a percentage of your portfolio into stocks, into crypto. Sure, do these things, but at the end of the day, it's just one click of a button and you can sell it. Whereas when you're buying things like physical gold, when you're buying things like houses, even later down the line, like I've been doing a lot of in the last couple of years, buying equity in businesses, these aren't things that you can just sell easily. So once you start making good amounts of money, just remember you will be the biggest liability to yourself. Just remember that you have a long career ahead of you, and there's always time to buy the glamorous things that you want and do this and do that. And you can do those things, but first go buy some assets. Go get that money away from you. There is nothing wrong with many people knowing you or with you having many acquaintances, but you should have very few friends. And here's the thing, most people in this bullshit fake life don't know the difference between an acquaintance and a friend, because most people don't understand what true loyalty is. They are around people that they don't like. They're around people for clout or money and this and that. And that's why, by the way, it's so important to get yourself strong first. So this way, people later down the line can't throw money or women or clout at you and you're impressed by it. You need to make yourself strong. You need to make yourself a fortress. But back to the point, keep your circle tight, but your influence large. Many people can and should know of you. And I'm not talking about having a massive social media following or this or that. I just mean even in the industry you're in, never unnecessarily burn bridges. Always be very polite and courteous to people, but always understand that you can probably only have a select handful of true friends, true brothers in arms, true people that would love you and do anything for you. That's a very, very small circle. So your circle of influence can and should be large, but keep your actual circle solid and full of good people. Your marriage failed, your fault. Your business failed, your fault. You got a knee injury that meant you couldn't play tennis for 6 months, your fault. Whatever it is, it's your fault. Because that is the only way to properly look at your life and analyze what are the inputs that could have led to this final outcome. Whereas if you just blame it on externals and all this, you're not gonna get very far in life. Now, the next secret millionaire trait that you need to possess is you need to develop a high stress tolerance. I tell people time and time and time again, that more than likely most people think they want my life, but they don't really want my life. Because listen, it's not easy to have 150 employees between multiple various companies. Managing that with complex different corporate structures and trusts around the world and investments and family planning and taking care of my mom and my friends and my loved ones, and managing that with all the social media, online BS and all the stuff that comes with it. But I've told people the reason that I can deal with it is because I have an extremely high stress tolerance. So I need you to understand, don't believe all of this self-help BS that it's just gonna be all roses and fairy tales. And if you feel stressed today, take a break. Give yourself a break. You deserve a break. You've done no work and you faced your first challenge, your first obstacle, but focus on your mental health. Just, don't push yourself too much. It's absolutely ridiculous, the world we live in. As I said, I like to talk very transparently and openly to people. It will be stressful. It will be painful. You will suffer from mental health issues. And that comes with the territory. In the same way, you cannot expect to be a world-class bodybuilder or be a bodybuilder that steps on stage and you say, I want to be a bodybuilder and I want to step on stage. But when I go to the gym, it can't hurt. The second that it hurts, I'm going to take a break because I got to focus on myself and I don't want to push myself too much. And it's all about taking care of yourself, If you want to have that mentality, that is totally fine. You will never get to where you want to get to in life. And by the way, there's genuinely, and I know I talk very intense sometimes, there's genuinely nothing wrong with that. I think if you want to be some billionaire CEO, or you just want to make 30, 40 grand a month, have some sort of online side hustle and surf all day, whatever you want to do, that is totally cool. As long as it is 100% congruent and honest to your life path, and it's something that you choose. I guess it's easy enough for me to say, but I genuinely believe if you stick to something long enough, you will become successful. So for me, that was never really what I focused on. Instead, what I focused on, or my mind was really consumed by, was how do we stay there? Because as I said, if you manage to make $1 million, I mean, that's cool, congratulations, but I mean, it's really not that special. If you manage to do it over and over and over and have continued success in an industry, or maybe pivot to another industry and flourish in that industry, that is really what the legends are made of. So don't think that, oh, I'm gonna build up my business or build up my career and make a lot of money and then that's it. I can't tell you how many people I've seen get to that position and then they kick up their feet, they get comfortable. And by the way, I know in this video I've talked about, hey, it's good to have an ego and you need to think that you're special and this, that. Those things aren't bad things. Let me tell you what's truly egotistical. Getting to a position in life and thinking that, okay, I'm good now. That is truly egotistical. You need to understand that once you get to where you want to get to in life, you've just started. Now you got to stay there, and that is the real difficulty.
Hey, thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. So if you did, hit the like button and follow my YouTube channel because I'm already working on the next video like this. So see you soon.
I mean, look, ever since we went off the gold standard, money's just loosey-goosey. It's anywhere. There is so much money being printed. There is so much money out there. And you're still broke? What are you doing? Stop messing around. Get your head in the game.